Okay, here's a sample of editing some flash photos. So here's the first photo that I shot at this angle. And between, I'm going to use this one where I'm not in the frame. And then these two, I'm going to use either one or both of them. This is the far room shot. This is a slightly overexposed, and this is a more overexposed, so I'm going to go with this one. So I've narrowed it down to this, 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 and this. And so we'll just sort for those. Here we go. And I dropped the highlights, raised the shadows to give a little more to work with, and synced that across all of them, like sync, like that. And then I went in to this one and made it a little bit brighter so that that bright room in the back will come through a little bit more. And I set the white balance to daylight for all of them, which gave me this sort of look inside. So that's that. Get them all and take them into Photoshop. So open as layers in Photoshop. I have a shortcut that does that, but if you weren't using the shortcut, then it would be right click on them and then edit in open as layers. And if you're doing this kind of work, I do highly recommend that you set that as a keyboard shortcut. I did that as a global keyboard shortcut in macOS. Okay, here we are. We've got our main layers here, and so deciding which one to start with. Let's see. So the reason I want these two because the light is coming from inside the frame towards the camera rather than this where the light is coming from behind the camera, which isn't really as good. So I'll use that for fill if I need to, but these are going to be like my base photos. So let's see. And I'm going to need something to get rid of that hot spot. So let's see if I can get rid of my feet here. I think that was my idea with this photo. And I think, is this on the brighter frame? This is the brighter frame. So rather than that, I'm going to go with, let's go back up until, we're going to make this one our base image. I took the base image at the bottom. Okay, hide this. And all right, take myself out. And as much as I can until I get to the hotspot from the other one. Okay, so get that back out. So we've got a kind of uneven exposure here. And then there's still a hotspot on that corner. I can open the camera raw thing, Command-Shift-A, and we'll bring the exposure up on this level a little bit. Let's see how that does for making it similar. Somewhat, but I can't watch it as I do it. So let's make a curves layer that's attached to that, and I'll just bring it up there. And that's too bright, so I'm watching the floor right here to get the exposure pretty level. That's pretty close. Okay, so now we'll take that other flash level layer, this one, and I think I'm going to make that one a little brighter too. So attach that there, bring that up, and then let's just put those together. And mask, command click the mask, brush that in, 30%. Okay, good enough. A lot of glare on the windows. Let's see which layer doesn't have glare on the windows. And this one, nope, lots of glare on the windows in that. So is it this layer that has less glare on the windows? Yeah, so we'll do a little less light and a little less glare over here. Nope, I like that sharp light over there, which is probably all going to go away when we get to the ambient layer anyway. So where's this one is our far room. We're just going to go with lighten and going to make sure that that applies only to right here. So 0 for full power brush. I don't love this little area where the dark mixes with the light right there. But is there any way to really fix that? I don't know. Maybe a more experienced retoucher would. But is anybody really going to notice or care? Probably not. It's mostly let's go with like 20, like that. Nope. No, I don't like that. What if I make another little curves layer here and make it extra bright? Let's see, and it sort of flows through the door there. And then we'll fill that with black to make that mask disappear, and then we'll use a brush with white to make a little more of that appear, and that's kind of bringing it closer together. It's good enough, I guess. Let's group all that together. Not mask, luminosity. Okay. Yeah, so I didn't need to make the mask on that. and just lowered the layer opacity to make that blend, and it doesn't need to be super bright in that room. Actually, it could be about similar light level to this room. All right, that's good. And then we've got our base, so we're going to go with luminosity for this so that we get the daylight look inside. And I don't want it to be so strong everywhere. Like, I like that it's lighter in the foreground here. And we also need to get rid of the window. I forgot to shoot a ambient only dark shot of the window here. I'm going to use the pen tool because that's my preference for selection tool. You could use the polygonal lasso, or whatever the hell you want, as long as you get something pretty close. I don't want the window in this, so there we go. That's chopped out there. That's pretty good. I don't like this line right here though, so I'm gonna have to fix that. You could maybe use one of the object selection things instead of doing this manually. I'm sure there's a way that would work decently, and whatever your preference is for selection tool, you can do. So there's, close that and feather that and fill that with black. So there's that, and we should probably make this frame right here not be so blown out so that the mullions match. Fill that with black. But then you can see that, so let's do a little better selection here. It doesn't matter if I cut through some of the white here. In fact, better that I cut the white than the black. So there we go. And from a distance, it doesn't make much of a difference. So now let's look at how we want to blend these two together. What do we want where? So that's all flash, and this is all ambient. This is halfway in the middle, which is decent, but I think I'm going to go with a more controlled. I don't want to mess with this because I don't want to accidentally brush out my window, so I'm going to make the new layer here, and this is the one I'm going to mess with for reducing the amount of ambient light here. Let's go with a brush at 50% and add some black. So now we're getting all flash on the right over here. So that's like 100% flash over there. And some flash right here on this wall. And let's go back with a little more ambient over here. So I like the ambient light on the ground here. That bit of shadow is nice. Maybe not too much of it. I just dropped the opacity of the brush down to 20 there. And let's take another look and see if there's more shadow or what I want here. And I like the flash up here. Maybe I'll soften this just a little bit. We're gonna go with a little more daylight there, a little more flash right here. So painting in some more, wait, am I painting in white or the other way around? And a little lighter over here by brushing in some more white. And I think this is good enough. And it's really hard to say what's better or worse. It's good enough. No, let's get a little. So this is really up to preference, I guess. And so, but I really like the light coming in around the window here. And so what's nice is because I cut that out, I can just set this to 100% and brush that right there. Yeah, that looks nice. And that will let a little bit of that shadow fall on that wall because that's very natural. But we're covering up our exposed back room here. So let's make the brush a little bit smaller and go with black and get our higher exposure for that back room in there from the level below. That's pretty good, I think. So now we're going to do a curves layer. We're going to grab this middle one to do white balance, and we're going to click somewhere in like the deeper grays in the image, and let's put that up top, and let's see how that works. It kind of made things a little greenish. It's taken away some of the like yellows and magentas, which I guess is good. And then we'll make another curves layer, and this is going to be for contrast. We're going to bring the blacks down. We're going to bring the whites up. That's pretty good. And is there anything else I want to change here? I think this is fine. So Command-Alt-Option E, and that flattens everything to a new layer, and then J to grab the spot removal tool. For these spots, spot removal is going to work fine. You don't need to use the this is the new removal tool, which uses like AI to remove like more difficult things. But for dust spot, it takes more time. It has to calculate and think about it every time. So using this spot removal tool is better for like removing a spot on like a flat white wall like that. And there's one right there. And like, how much is anybody going to see these when they're looking at their phone? Like, definitely not. But I do like to get rid of the most glaring ones, at least. And let's see if there's any, I don't see any imperfections on the floor, really. Like, there's some dust over here, but nobody is ever going to see that when they're looking at the photo like this big. And I don't think this photo really needs anything else. So, you could fix the perspective here. Oh, there's a hot spot right there. Let's see if we can correct that with this. So we're going to go back to this layer. I'm going to brush, 10% until that hot spot kind of disappears. Yeah, there we go. And now I've got this layer, so I'll put a mask on that, and then I'll show that little repair that I just made through this mask by masking out that little section. And there we go. That's kind of fixed. Let's go back to this one and do a little more. No, a little more brushing that out. That's good. No. Now I see it again. There. Now it's kind of gone, right? Close enough. So we're going to call that finished. I'm going to save this image. Oh, and like I said, you could do the perspective adjustment here. You could drag out these little things and skew the image to get it done, which maybe if I'm sending this to a retoucher, maybe they do that so that I don't have to do it in Lightroom at the end. But the way that I typically do it is in Lightroom. And this is pretty close, right? Like, this image isn't too warpy. Except here. That's not so good. Anyway, back in Lightroom, 5-star, select, and let's see how auto does. That's good enough, really. And usually, even in Lightroom, I'm going to pump up the curve just a little bit. And that's pretty good. So call that done. There we go, finished image. Go to export. And we're going to name this example 2.